Well, now I'm going to just open it up to some questions. I think it's really interesting for some reason that the economy has impacted your business because, I mean, it seems like in Southern California everybody needs their car and everybody needs it fixed, but I guess people just kind of make do with spit and paste a little more than they used to. Does anybody have a question right off, or should I ask a couple, or anybody have a burning question for one of these guys?
I just had a comment.
Yeah.
Sean, when you said that you were willing to stay there till 7 or 8 o'clock as an employee, that's unbelievable. Most people today, 5 o'clock, and
Well, you know my bosses, so.
well, I mean,
No.
it's just to let everybody else know, that's the kind of attitude that you gotta have if you really wanna keep a job. You know, you just have to do what it takes to get the job done and be happy doing it.
You do have to find a happy medium with that. I mean, because especially like I said, with the economy being the way it is, it's getting tougher and tougher out there. So you've got to be willing to make that commitment.
Well, some of us don't mind it.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like some of us, like, you know, I grew up turning wrenches at the age of 9 years old. I just really regret not going to. I mean, I took automotive class in high school. My life took a different path, and I just recently got back to City College. But I've always had a passion for engines. My uncle used to build engines I used to watch him build cars from the ground up, just starting with a frame. And then to see what he used to put together and see the aftermarket, I used to blow my mind. I used to love that. You know, and so I've always had, it was always a part of me. And I like watching, staying out there until 12 o'clock in the morning and watch him tear down a car. And he wouldn't stop until he was done. He wouldn't stop till that car fired. And then he'd go to bed. You know, and part of me has that a little bit in me too. You know, you gotta get the job done, especially when you're talking about customers.
Yep.
I think you touch on a good point. All three of these gentlemen mentioned that this was just something they loved. Phil, you just loved cars, and you had an aptitude for welding and making things work, and
I just didn't want to pay for the repairs anymore.
Yeah, you had a really heavy motivation there. You wanted to drive recklessly, basically.
Yeah.
I can relate to that one. I trashed my my mom's boyfriend's truck like when I was 16 years old. So I just bent it back into shape. I have one question for each of you, and it's just, what do you think is the major skill or strength that you possess that really serves you in your job or in your business? What do you think? We get that question a lot in interviews. Like, well, what do you think is your one best quality, or what's really serving you in your career or your business?
Yeah, I'll start. I think, I always was very mechanically inclined, but more so than that, there's a desire to learn, and it's like today's cars. It's not just being good with your hands. I mean, you got to be a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer. You got to be able to look at something, be able to figure out how it comes apart, and be able to put it back together. I mean, growing up, I was always taking stuff apart. I got in trouble because I never put it back together because I didn't care. I got it apart. I knew how it worked. I didn't need to put it back together. But I got grounded because I took the weed whacker apart. And my stepdad went to use it and it wasn't working. But it's the desire to learn. And you've got to be open to all different types of learning. I mean, it's not just one thing. I mean, every instructor you'll have is going to teach it teach it differently, and you've got to be open to the technique and absorb the information.
Yeah,
That's huge.
I think that's really important. Especially with how much automobiles and the industry has changed. I mean, you really have to adapt. Like you were saying, you did a clinic over the weekend, to learn how to do some of this new stuff.
I would say my strength would be, diagnostic skills and understanding how the product works, and just having all those tools in my pocket to do the car correctly and fast and efficient. And actually, it's a learning experience every day. And there's nothing that's you take for granted. You think one time you fix it this way, and next time it's something totally different. You go, man. It's not fun. But you try to hone your skills, and it just takes persistence and understanding how it really works. And sometimes just the basic thing as a loose or corroded wire in the system will drive everything crazy. And you'll spend hours chasing your tail, and all it was that one connector. So, you never shortchange your basic stuff. You got to know how that system works and what everybody needs, and you eventually hone in on it. And that's your strength right there, is just understanding, knowledge of the system. So.
We have a training class, as Sean said, that we put on, CarQuest puts on, and the instructor that teaches our training class made this comment at the very beginning of these classes, which was 10 years ago now.
It's been about that, yeah.
And he said, there's no doubt in my mind, speaking from him, there's no doubt in my mind that every technician in this room can fix every problem on every car, period. He said, but you need to do it fast. If you have enough time, enough money, and enough parts to throw at it, every technician in this room can fix every problem on every car in the world, not a problem. But what he tries to teach these guys is their diagnostic skills so that they can actually do it. So my business, and I think all three of ours, our level of technical expertise is not nearly as high as what these guys have to do. But everybody in all three industries, we have to be smart. And I have guys working for me that are different levels of intelligence. And the ones that are smarter just do the job better. The ones that are not as intelligent, their heart might be in it, they might like it, they might not be as quick, they might not be able to reach a conclusion. I mean, as these guys are making snap decisions and diagnostic skills, and they have to follow a path, what happens, this, well, that happens, and you go that path, just any diagnostic, whether it's computers or cars. And we're doing essentially the same thing. We're juggling, we're taking these 6 oranges, and we're doing this, and somebody throws a 7th one in there, and you drop one, and then somebody throws a red apple in there, and it's this one, and then we're doing that. So constantly, we're just multitasking and doing it all day long. So you just gotta have some level of intelligence to do it. That's the biggest tool, and the best tool I think all of us can use.
Yeah, and be a multitasker. I heard a couple of you say that.
It's not a job for everybody, and I've seen people in my industry that were great at something else that didn't require those skills, but not good at what our industry was. And I wouldn't be good at what they ended up doing, but
Right.
it's just a different set of skills.
Well, and also with in the industry, Sean, you were saying how your first job when you came back from the military was, I forget what you.
Service writing, it's,
So-
yeah, service
Like
advisor.
writing up the tickets,
Right.
intaking the people
Dealing
and
with
whatnot.
customers and stuff like that,
I
yeah.
recently had my oil changed at, shall remain nameless, starts with a J and ends with a lube. And the guy who was doing that intake was fabulous at it. I mean, he was a fabulous salesperson, and I was wondering if he was as good at the other stuff, and sometimes that's an important piece of the puzzle in your career quest is like, what part of this industry that you may be attracted to or love are you suited to? And it seems like you guys really kind of found your way, and I love the story about the guy who's the driver, who really found his niche within your business, and it's working for his life, and he's doing a good job, and you're lucky to have him, and he's lucky to have you.
We've seen in this industry, on all of our different levels, people skills. Service writers are people with people skills make the best service writers. And we've had a service writing class that CarQuest has put on in the past, and the guy that teaches the class actually goes out in his business. He'll go out to a shop and he will teach them how to service write. This is what he does all over the country. And he will tell us that he says, I have recruited some of the best service writers I've ever had from restaurants where I'm having dinner, waiters and waitresses. He says, if you're a people person, I can teach you how to service write. Okay, he's not working on cars, but I can teach you how to service write. Once you have people skills, but he says, if you don't have people skills, I can't teach you that. So that's recognizing what your strengths are. If you're a quick thinker and you're a juggler and stuff, you could be a tech, you could be parts. If you're a people person, or a combination of both of those, you can multitask and do both of those. But the best service writers, I think you guys would agree that, the people that would do the best at it. And I'm not talking about being a person that, and I'm not gonna use the B word, but the BS word. You don't have to tell untruths, just be honest with people, but you have to be able to deal with people and be happy at your job and positive about it, so, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest difference between a service writer and a technician is that the service writer can't take his job home, but the technician is, I can't, like I said, I live in Lompoc, so As I'm driving home, especially when I got a car that I'm really struggling with, I'll be sitting there talking with my wife, who does nothing with the automotive industry, and, you know, and after 10 years of marriage, she's starting to come back to, well, did you check this?
Good for her.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Well, I just have a comment, and I'm just pleased to hear how diverse and interesting the work is. I mean, that it's always something new, that you keep learning, that you keep active, you know, you're challenged by it. And I think that's one of the aspects of the industry. You know, sometimes you think, okay, well, fixing something, it's like you do the same thing over and over. You're always like, you know, changing oil or changing tires or whatever. But it sounds like there's always challenges, there's problems to be solved, there's ways, you know, there's new things to be learned. It keeps your brain going, it keeps you happy. I mean, you guys have all been doing this basically your whole adult life, pretty much. So that speaks well, I think, for the profession and how engaging it is and how stimulating it can be.
And it's a growing profession. I mean, there's a massive shortage of technicians, you know. I mean, it's tough finding a good quality technician, you know, and it's not, I mean, and that goes just from shop to shop. Who someone that might work really well with me may not work really well with the next shop. But, you know, it's definitely, it's very difficult to find technicians out there.
I had a customer, an older gentleman that was in the service station business and repair for his entire life. And he made the comment to me one day, he retired 10 or 15 years ago when it was not nearly as complicated as it is now. And the analogy that he used was doctors versus mechanics or technicians. And he says, doctors have one model. Okay?
That's
It
right.
hasn't changed. There's a lot out there. You read this guy?
Submodel.
Two models.
Two models.
And they haven't changed in thousands of years. Human mind hasn't changed. There's technological breakthroughs in health, of course, but he says we have 500 models, and Volvo's different than Saab, and Saab's different than GM, and everybody has their own computers, and cars now have several multi-computers that talk to each other. And our world is just getting exponentially more complicated like that. And not that doctors have it easy by any means, but they have two models. That's
Yeah.
all. And it was a neat analogy when he put it that way, you know.
In their practice.
Yeah,
Just
they're
practicing.
practicing.
We're professionals.
Practicing,
We're
So,
not allowed to make mistakes.
yeah.
Well, the other thing, Phil, is we have to fix our mistakes. They can bury theirs.
Yeah.
They
do.
Right.
That was good. I got a question. Would you say the internet has made diagnosing or help diagnose a problem more efficient?
Absolutely.
Because of Identifix and because of websites that you can bounce off problems off of so many different techs worldwide.
I use that every day. There's a ton of information out there in those websites. We pay, you know, a fee for that information every month, but definitely use that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, you know, I'd say a good portion of my day is spent, because we don't specialize in any one car. We work on just about anything that comes through the door. So it's impossible to know every system on every vehicle. So a lot of my day is spent researching theory and operation, you know, and that takes time. But yeah, the internet has been an invaluable tool. It may hamper service riders because now you got customers that think they're more informed, you know, but definitely helped us. Yeah, definitely.
I got a question for you, Steve. You
Yes.
said that was it a Volvo had a key fob that monitored heartbeat?
Only, it's a part of the alarm system, and when you unlock the car, if the thing's flashing red, they registered a heartbeat in the car, so you know someone's broken into the car.
So somebody's still in the car?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, someone's still in the car. So that's pretty frightening, but
So-
that technology's there, and
If a dog's stealing it, it doesn't register.
dog, cat.
Aliens.
You better get your dog
That's
heart
good
put
to
in.
know.
So,
That's also if you forgot your baby in the car. It's like, oh, shoot.
that's where it
okay.
is.
So what else?
I
It's your
sold
chance,
that
guys.
car.
What kind of car?
So is everyone here already enrolled in the automotive program? Is anybody thinking about enrolling and not enrolled yet? Oh, great. Do you have any questions? Just to put you on the spot back there? Yeah.
Actually, I have a question. what's the difference between like a shop versus like a dealership at a bigger shop, like a Honda? You know how they have their own shop versus a little shop. Is there like personal time, say if, like there's an apprentice there like studying? Is it better for them to work at a shop versus one of those bigger dealerships?
Well, I can give you my experience because I worked at a dealership, and it's a good place to learn, and they can hide your mistakes with the warranty claims. So the things you break, they can just warranty it, doesn't cost the owner anything. Whereas an independent, you break it or blow an engine up, well, the owner's got to buy that. You won't last there very long. So it's good to cut your teeth at a dealership.
You know, and I never worked in a dealership, but you know, some of the better techs that I know today started there. Others have started in an independent, but you know, I think in an independent shop, you may or may not have a little bit more one-on-one training with one specific person. Like a lot of my training started with the owner of the business, and you know, and then from there it would progress to working with like master technicians that are already, you know, in the business. But I'm sure at a dealer level, I'm sure it's just about, I would imagine it's the same.
People that I've known in the dealerships, and I think you guys would agree with this, that if there is an exodus, they might start in the dealership and eventually work out into the private sector. Very few people start in the private sector and end up in the dealership.
That's
Doesn't go
true.
that way. Dealership seems to me to be incredibly good training, but you're working on, you're back in that one model, you know, one car. And that car has several models, but that's that one car. And you might get a guy that works his entire career or half his career in the Chevrolet agency, and he does not know anything about a Ford. He can't, you know, he can't fix that Ford. He does not know its idiosyncrasies. He has not been trained on it. He has general knowledge, but the idiosyncrasies he knows are just on Chevrolet. And I know a gentleman that worked at Toyota, and he could R&R do a valve job on a Toyota 4Runner V6 in incredible time, fast, incredibly fast. Give him a Chevy, no tools, no knowledge, and so a lot of the guys want more of a challenge, and they'll use a dealership as a stepping point and cut their teeth on it, and then they'll move out of the dealership into what we call the real world, because the real world is there's every car out there, and it's getting exponentially, again, more and more and more cars, more models, more manufacturers, more complications, and they want to learn more. They want to be more versatile and do that. And the dealership guys will counter with, well, I know more about that Chevy than your aftermarket guys know, because they know a little bit about a lot of cars, and I know a lot about this one car. And I don't agree with that, because the level of training that we all have now and we all put on now, I would put the guys that go to our CarQuest classes against any dealership mechanic. And not downplaying the dealership guy. They're not stupid, they're smart. But I would put some of our technicians in the aftermarket up against any one of them. You know, so I would, and that may not answer your question, but there isn't one that's necessarily, if there is one better than the other, I think our guys are better than them, or they're equal.
I had a comment towards that, towards the question. The way I look at a dealership, when you talk, you drop off your car, you talk to somebody with a tie. In a private shop, sometimes you talk to the person that's fixing your car. So you get to know the person that's actually fixing your car. So you get to talk to the owner, if he works on the car. At a dealership, you pop your car, somebody's on the desk, takes your stuff, but you don't know who's fixing your car.
That's
the way I
true.
look at it.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
You cut the car,
definitely.
give you a good look. You don't know if the person has the knowledge. You don't know what's going on with that person. At a private shop, you see them all the time. Your regular customers come in, they know
Yeah.
you by your name. So,
That's a good point. I had a quick car repair question that came up, like, because now both of you work on all kinds of cars.
Mhm.
That's right, and obviously Larry, or Phil, you supply to everything. Do places that specialize in certain kinds of autos, do they tend to be more expensive or is it, or does it matter, or like, because I was thinking those places that are specializing in Volvos or Mercedes or something, they just know how to do that, so they probably do it fast and do it theoretically very well. I was just curious.
No,
Kind of competitive across the board.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think the labor times are pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find the dealership, labor rate's always higher. They charge more at the dealership than an independent would. So you probably get a better price at an independent,
Oh, interesting.
typically.
Yeah.
Because you're not
You
paying
might
for the big
find-
you don't have the big overhead that the dealer has.
You might find the labor rates are similar, but if it's a more exotic car like a Mercedes or BMW, the parts might cost more.
Right.
So the
Oh,
price
yeah.
ticket
Well-
might be higher, but it
Right.
wasn't the labor.
Right, right. That shows you that this is not my area of expertise.
It's
a good question.
I have an honest mechanic though.
Question. How you work with your clients to retain them as a, it's
Well-
one life of it's an average, after 2 years, mostly you change everybody, your clients, or you can keep them for 10, 15 years, what?
I have
What's
clients
that?
I've had for over 20 years, and now I'm doing their kids, cars, and pretty soon they're gonna have kids, they'll be doing their cars. So, you gain that trust, being, like you touched on it, you're talking to me, I'm diagnosed, I'm fixing your car, or, I'm the guy you talk to, and I'm taking care of your car. And you're not talking to a service writer or a service advisor, and then go to the cashier, and you only talk to the guy that opened the hood of your car. So you're hoping they did it right, or they did it at all. So, it's a trust issue and that personal issue that I give as an independent.
How do
So-
you build that trust? Like, have you thought about that?
I just do it. I'm just an honest, happy
doing
guy. I
the
love what
job
I
right.
do. Hey, I'm gonna fix it.
There's no
It's
problem.
good, and they trust me, and
Yeah.
I do a good job.
I'm not
I don't have any comebacks. The car's fixed right the first time, and everyone's happy. And you
I've
just-
had the experience with my mechanic where a couple of times I've taken it and he said, I don't think anything's wrong with it. I think it's okay. And I'm always like, wow, he could have, he could have charged me for that. And that really built my trust, for instance. And I was like, if he's willing to, spend 15 minutes looking at it and deciding that it doesn't really need a new part, I'm gonna come back to him. I want to give him the money once it does need a new
and
part.
that's my best advertising, word of mouth, right there.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna tell 10 other people, hey, this guy's gonna take care of your car. He's not gonna rip you off. So it
Right.
works.
I think that when you're talking to the person that's fixing the car, that you communicate the problem better. That the mechanic is gonna have a much better idea of what questions to ask, so that the repairs go smoother and faster and better. If you take it in and you're just dealing with a service writer, like Bill said, a service writer's a people person, doesn't really necessarily know how the car
Yeah.
works. So they're just kind of listening to the person and just jotting down what they're saying, and that's it. But to save time and money, I think that the more experience you have communicating with the customer and the knowledge base, you'll get the job done faster. So I think that's an advantage of an independent over a dealership.
I agree.
If you've ever gone to a dealership and you tell them your problem and they write it up, you'll notice it says customer claims that this is the problem.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah.
That's not building trust.
They kind of just
Leaves it there. You have to diagnose the problem
Right.
around there.
Yes.
I have a question. So how does somebody once they have their education, what would you give as advice to somebody who wanted to find a job in the industry or get themselves started? Like if they wanted to find a job with somebody?
Yeah, best place to start is start talking with the instructors at City College. I mean, they know the people in this industry, especially in a smaller area like Santa Barbara. They might have an idea of who's looking, and you got to get out and you just got to start talking to some of the shops. It doesn't hurt to just stop in and say, tell them who you are, what you've done, and you're looking for a job. And it's tough right now, being the economy being what it is. It's tough, but you have to be a little persistent about it. But you gotta get out there. And I said, but I really think talking with my high school auto shop teacher, he was the one that turned me on to the place I'm working now. So I think it's probably your best resources.
And how do you, as employers and managers, how do you tend to find employees when you're looking for them?
Talk to the City College instructor.
You do?
So I got my tech now. David, he's right here, just left. He
Oh.
works at my shop in the morning, goes to school in the afternoon, and he'll be graduating pretty soon, so I have him full-time in the shop. He's been a great worker, hard worker, and really sharp, so I'm really impressed. And you'll find most independent shops in town will pretty much only hire City College, student or graduate.
Oh,
It's kind
interesting.
of just because we want someone that has a basic knowledge of the car. And then they'll need some training, for the product we're working on, but they're gonna have a basic, understanding of what's going on.
Excellent.
To even walk in the door to, trust them to, destroy a $40,000 car real quick, so if they don't know what they're
Right.
doing. So
Right.
it's a big leap of faith, but being in this program is an excellent program they have up here. Most
Cool.
of the independents will use them.
I have a question, probably to Phil. Can students come to some of the IAPA meetings and get to know shop owners, or? is-
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then once you start to know some shop owners, that opens a lot of doors.
And the flip side of that is it shows the shop owners that you have a strong interest in this industry. Because, it is, like I said, it's tough to find a good tech, and a lot of it is, or part of it anyway, is desire. You've got to really want to do this job. It's not just something you're gonna walk in, clock in 8 o'clock and go home at 5 o'clock, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. So, yeah, I mean, to take part in like the IAPA, it's gonna show the owners of these shops that, this person is really interested in this industry.
As employers, I think, and I think all of us the same thing, we like to see a prospective employee that wants to show up at the shop and say, I want to be your sweeper. I want to start here. My best counter guys have started as drivers. We have hired people at the counter, but my best counter people, by and large, with really no exceptions, have started off as drivers, worked their way up. So I think the best technicians, and I can name a bunch of technicians in this town that started off going to a shop and saying, I need a job, can I be your floor sweeper? I got a guy in Montecito, the guy that's gonna end up owning the shop out there, started off, went through the City College program, Hunter, of course, I'm talking about, went through the program, got hired out of high school as their cleanup boy, and then worked at this shop through his education at City College, and he just went right up, because he's a special person, but still, that's where he started.
Well, it seems like those special people understand that and all of you, I think, touched on this when you were introducing yourselves, is that hard work is fundamental. I mean, and wanting to just work, because we just had a culinary one of these chats, and they were saying the same thing. They said go into a kitchen and say you want to wash dishes. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like you want to be surrounded with your stuff. You want to be in the environment that you want to work in, and
You show and you demonstrate that you're not ready, you're not willing to, it's 5 o'clock, I'm gone. No, you want to be there, you want to learn that. It's exactly what you're talking about. It takes that person with that drive to really shine amongst, there's a lot of competition for the job. Even in our shortage of technicians, there's still a competition for jobs out there everywhere. The one that's gonna stick up above the crowd, that the employees are gonna look at and go, that's the one I want, is the one that's gonna show that kind of,
initiative.
determination.
Goes above and beyond the Call of Duty.
Yep, yeah, it's not complicated, any occupation.
And is a nice person and nice to work with, I think that's important too.
Well, there is a flip side. You really have to have thick skin to work in this industry.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But that's, it's good.
I mean, because the customers.
No, I mean the customers.